Hello, everyone. If you are joining me live, thank you for joining me tonight. I am streaming live on TikTok and on Instagram, as always. And tonight, I am having a conversation with having my sister join the conversation. A lot of times when we have conversations about cancer and our journey, we fail to talk to the caregivers and our support system about their journey and how they have navigated being that support for their loved ones. So tonight I am going to be including my sister on my live. I did send her an invite and she's going to be live on Instagram. So she will be joining us momentarily. If you are new to my lives, my name is AJ. Tag name is Nevertheless She Persisted. I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 41. I am, which was last year, 2024, and I am coming towards the end of my treatment for breast cancer. At the beginning of my diagnosis, I did chemotherapy, immunotherapy. I had to have a double mastectomy with reconstruction. I am now only on immunotherapy, and hopefully I will be done with that the end of March. So I am excited to be done with this journey, or not this journey, because this journey is going to continue, but I'm excited to be done with the medication portion of this journey. So I am looking forward to ringing the bell and moving forward and trying to get things back on track, getting back into work and being more active, which I am trying to do every day. My body is still adjusting to the immunotherapy and or the stress my body has went through with being on chemotherapy and the surgery. So my energy level isn't the best. I am trying to get things back on track with that. So I have been going to the gym, walking on a treadmill, doing little by little each day. So that way, when I'm done, completely done with the immunotherapy, I will have enough energy to kind of get back into working full time. I've been out of work during this whole process because the side effects were extreme, and I was working in a jail setting, so that was also a concern with my immune system being compromised because of the chemotherapy and immunotherapy. It was the best for me to kind of just be home and doing what I need to do medically, taking my medications, and getting through this process without any added issues. So I will be going back to work, well, having to look for another job, unfortunately. And the goal between now and then is to get my body back to being able to manage a full-time work schedule. And that's something that makes me anxious, because when I have appointments now, if I go out and have a full day of doctor's appointments, the next day I'm just extremely exhausted. And my work requires a lot. Mental health case manager. I work with adults that have mental illness, and my job relies on me when I'm working to be able to assist my clients with navigating resources, appointments, managing their mental health and physical health, and doing that 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, not including travel time. That just worries me, because I am unsure how my body is going to adjust to being back on a full schedule. So that's one of the things that I'm worried about. But I am actually excited about being done with treatment. I am looking forward to that. My doctor asked me, what am I planning once treatment is over? And throughout this whole entire process and journey, the last thing I thought about was what I'm going to do once I'm done with treatment. So that's something I've been now having conversations with my family about, and we'll probably do dinner or something simple, nothing extreme, just to celebrate me being done with the medication portion of my journey. I am going to have to continue to see the oncologist for 5 years, at least 5 years, and then also the breast specialist as well. So But again, I'll be done with medication, so that's exciting. And I am trying to have my guest join on Instagram. I'm not too sure if there is a problem. So bear with me as I get my guest on. And if you are joining me on TikTok, I am live on Instagram as well. And today I am going to be focusing on the caregiver's journey. Navigating a loved one's breast cancer or cancer diagnosis, and how caretakers are able to navigate that journey as well. A lot of times we do not think about how our loved ones and caretakers are impacted with our journey, and I thought it would be good to kind of have that one-on-one conversation, especially if you're joining me and you are a loved one helping someone navigate that cancer diagnosis. I think that sometimes we fail to check in with our caregivers to kind of see how they're doing, because we're so caught up in our own journey that we don't take the time to ask our loved ones how they're doing. All right, let's see. We are trying to get her on. All righty. Let me make sure the volume is up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Can you guys on TikTok hear my guest? If you can, give me a thumbs up or a yes or anything to let me know that you can also hear her. Hello, Miss Carol Gums. Okay, thumbs up. All right. So again, I am live on Instagram and TikTok. If you are joining me on TikTok, my guest is my sister, who has been with me throughout this entire journey from the moment I was diagnosed all the way up until now. It's been about a year on this journey, and she has been a big support for me. So I wanted to have her on. I did do a few lives where I talked about the stages of grief. And during the stages of grief, we touched on the denial stage, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And all of those stages of grief was tailored more towards my journey and how I was impacted with being diagnosed with breast cancer. But I wanted to get another perspective from the caretaker's point of view, because like I said earlier, we never ask about how our caregivers are navigating this cancer diagnosis, because they are with us through it all. And I think that for me, having my sister and my husband present has been extremely helpful. I would say throughout this journey, I did have plenty of conversations with my sister about how things are going with her life, family, my nieces, nephews, and things like that. But we never touched on how she's managing my diagnosis. I think that it might have been avoided, not having those conversations, just to avoid being emotional and things like that, and trying to keep my mind off of things. But I think that we sometimes need to check in with those who are there to support us, because it's not something that we're going through on our own. This is a journey that is affecting our loved ones as well. And in this journey, a lot of times we are selfish because we are only thinking about ourselves, and our caregivers are selfless because they're doing everything they can to kind of help us through this journey. So this is my way of kind of giving back, giving my sister a voice and other people out there a voice. If you are a loved one caring for someone with a cancer diagnosis, to kind of get a different perspective that is not our own, because they are also in this journey experiencing things in a different way. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to join me today. You're looking beautiful as ever.
Well, thank you.
All right, so I do have a few questions for you, and it's just, again, talking about your experience during this journey, how you were able to navigate and cope with my diagnosis, being my support system while still maintaining your own life. So the first thing that I want to ask is, like, can you share where you were and how you feel when you first heard about my cancer diagnosis?
Well, I was home. I was working from home, so I was home during the day, and so just working on my computer. And when you called me and told me, I don't think it hit me right away.
Okay.
Just hearing you distraught and you could really barely talk. Yeah. So I was more scared about, like, I thought something happened physically, or like I didn't know exactly what you were saying, and but once you got it out, it was more like just in shock. Yeah. And not really knowing what to say, but I knew that you were really distraught. So yeah. I dropped everything and headed to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you were definitely right there when I got home. You made sure you were there because I was also at work. And the crazy thing about it is I had the biopsy done. The radiologist that did the biopsy called me over the phone to give me the news of my diagnosis. So, of course, I was at work, not thinking about the results or worried about the results. And I think that if I could have had it any other way, I would have preferred to probably have an office visit or be at home when I got the diagnosis, because I was extremely distraught. And my supervisor at that time was worried about me even driving home. I know Dale, my husband, he's also worried about me driving home because it was just a lot. But
I was worried about him too.
Yeah, he was distraught.
Because when I called him to see where he was at, and he was distraught too. So it was like two distraught people driving, and so yeah. And I've actually had experience where working in a clinic that gave women results of biopsies, and they've never done, not from to my knowledge, a phone call. Yeah. Even if it was a negative biopsy, they still had to come in for an appointment. So that was different.
Yeah, I think that if things could have been differently, well, hopefully, I don't know if that's their practice. Again, it wasn't the doctor that did the referral wasn't the one that called me with the results. It was the radiologist or the person that did the biopsy at the imaging center that called me with the results. And definitely don't think that was the best way of giving news. Unfortunately, but what can you do? What can you do? And I did have a 45-minute drive home just because I worked 45 minutes from the office. So that was definitely a long ride home. But if you're joining me on TikTok, thank you for joining. I am live on Instagram and on TikTok. I have my sister here as a guest. We're talking to caregivers and how they navigate their loved one's cancer diagnosis. So if you do see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at the monitor for Instagram, because she is on Instagram. And I hope you guys can hear okay on TikTok. And alrighty. So what was your initial thoughts and emotions, and did it change over time?
I would say my first thought was wanting to know what the stages were. I think I was in disbelief at first. You know, I know that you had these exams done before and they were monitoring you. So that was always something that was like, oh, maybe, but it was never anything definitive. Once the results were there, it was just like shock. And then just wanting to have all the answers right there. Like, what stage was it? What, have all the information that we didn't have. So it was shock. And then it was just trying to get information. And wondering if you was going to be okay. Yeah. And so that's what it was. And it did change over time. I think after meeting with the doctor and finding out where it was, I felt a lot better with all the information that she gave. And so it was a little more, it was not as scary. Yeah. I knew the journey was going to be long when she gave you, said how long you'd have to do it, each step, how long each step would take. So that was kind of like, oh, that's a long time. So, but I was relieved that they caught it early though. Yeah. And so I knew that they had the treatment for it, and just, I was a little more, I wasn't as nervous after speaking to the doctor.
Yeah. And just for those of you who are joining us, my sister is actually a nurse. So during this journey, she gets a lot of my phone calls about labs and numbers that are off. So having her part of my support system has been a blessing because, again, she is a nurse that knows a lot. So when I had questions and didn't understand anything, having her right beside me was definitely good because she knew what questions to ask, and if she didn't know all of the information, she knew how to get it and explain it to me in a way that I would understand it as well. So when we had our prior to the first appointment, once we got home, once she came to my house, after the day of the diagnosis, we did get to speak to the nurse navigator.
Right.
Which was helpful. The nurse navigator is actually with the department that gave me my results over the phone, but she was there to answer any questions that I had and that the family had, and I think that was a good thing because when you get diagnosed, you have 1,000,001 questions, and she was definitely able to answer everybody's questions. So that was
and definitely kudos to her because she did help to ease the concern and the questions from the beginning. She was very thorough with everything, and she was really nice. And so
and I would
offer you to call her anytime you have questions, everything.
And I would say throughout this journey, none of the doctors that I had sugarcoated anything. They always said it's gonna be a lot, but you're gonna be okay. and that was a good thing because again, like it is a lot, but at the end of it all, you're gonna be okay. That was one thing that they definitely kept stressing. That was a good thing. So did you feel prepared to take on a supportive role, or was it a learning experience for you?
I think I was prepared to take on a supportive role. What I wasn't prepared for is just not having all the answers for you. Because I know that me being your sister and being a nurse, you want to ask me all the things. And there's just so many different nursing things that you could do, so many different fields. And I didn't feel like I had every answer for you, even though I knew I could get it. It still was kind of like a fish out of water. Because with cancer, it's so many different types, and it's so much that goes into it. And so, I think that was the hardest thing for me. Not being able to really answer everything or not being knowledgeable of everything. So that was the biggest thing. I think as a nurse, I'm always a support, a support, and that's to my family, friends, and my. So wasn't hard. It wasn't difficult for me to do that.
Well, you did have the answers that I felt I needed when I asked the questions, and one of the things that I would say you were helpful with is when I got beside myself and was just too ahead of everything, you always brought me back down to stay off of Google, focus on the here and now, stop with the what ifs and all of the things that may never happen, and just focus on being present. So that definitely helps.
Yeah, because you do that in all aspects of your life. Just
I know.
Always 10 steps ahead of the game. And it's like, man, slow down, relax.
Yeah, and I can say,
go ahead.
It's hard for me to not do that. I think because of the job that I was in, like as a case manager, when you're working with the clients and they're not able to manage like their daily living, like I always have to stay 10 steps ahead of the game to avoid like a crisis situation. Like, and I think that is a good thing in my work, in the field that I work in, but in life, it's not the best because it's just so many things. Like you're overly thinking and worrying and planning for the worst case scenario isn't good when it's your own personal life. Like planning for somebody else so that we can, okay, if this happened, we got this going on, we got these resources, like that helps avoid crisis in the mental health field. But again, personally, it does more harm than good, because it definitely affects you negatively when you're too far ahead of the game.
Your mental, you were overthinking, you know, you're not sleeping, you're stressing, just your brain. Sometimes you have to it's not the easiest thing in the world. You don't want to feel like you don't have control over your own life. But you know, you have to kind of pump your brakes, take things one day at a time. And I know that sounds so cliche, but you have to.
Yeah.
You're going to drive yourself crazy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I agree with that. One moment at a time. Sometimes the day was just too long to take it one at a time, or one appointment at a time. So if you're joining me live on TikTok, I am live streaming on TikTok and Instagram. Thank you for joining me tonight. I have my sister on Instagram live, so you should be able to hear her even though you're not able to see her if you're on TikTok. And she is joining me as a guest, talking about the caregiver's experience, so we can get a different perspective on our caregiver's journey. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times we're so focused on our own journey and what we're going through that we don't check in with the people that are there to support us. So I wanted to have a conversation with someone who's been there from the day of my diagnosis all the way up into this point, to kind of see how she was able to navigate this journey as my biggest support. So again, thank you guys for joining me on TikTok and on Instagram. So what were some of your biggest fears during this journey with me?
I would say not knowing how much this chemo treatment was going to affect you. I was worried about how my brother-in-law was going to be able to hold himself together, keep everything together while you were dealing with this, and worried about my niece and my nephew. Because you know, I know my nephew he's grown, but you know, your mom, and so, you know, and then with my niece, she's very curious and she sees everything. You might not think she's looking, but she sees, she hears everything. And so I was worried about how it was going to affect them, if they was going to be able to try to keep you in good spirits, and then just how overall how the chemo treatment was going to make you feel. Like I wasn't going to have my little sister anymore. There's always out and about, moving around, and just, you know, he was going to be limited to things, and then worrying about sickness, and because you do that, you know, that lowers your immune system and catching things, and it's just things everywhere. And with Layla being in school, and if she getting sick and then coming home. So I worried about a lot of the different things, how you and your family were going to be able to, you know, cope and deal and all of that. Yeah.
So what would you say, like, how did you navigate? Like, what was the coping skills that you used? Like, coping skills or support systems, or how did you navigate that on your end with all of the worries and the things that...
Just checking in and, you know, seeing how everybody was doing. Just being the ear to listen, and you know, I told, you know, my brother-in-law, your husband, that he could call me anytime, and just really checking in and seeing if you guys needed anything, and just being there. And so just speaking to you and knowing that you're okay when you're in your treatments. I know he with you, he drove you, and, or, you know, so all of those little things, and just kind of keeping my schedule open just in case, you know, he wasn't able to be there, or if you needed somebody to pick up my niece, or, you know, just trying to be available. Yeah.
And you definitely was available. But the way you answer that question just brings me back to, again, having a support system, having someone who is there to support you. Again, everything that you said revolved around making sure I was good. And that's why I say, again, at the beginning of this conversation, is when a person is diagnosed with cancer, we're selfish because we're only focused on ourselves and not how everybody else impacted. And then the person who's there to make sure we're good is selfless, because you're doing everything for that person because you want them to do well. So with your answer, you did everything to make sure I was good. But what did you do to make sure, like, to alleviate your stress? Because I know it was emotional for you. I know that, like, you needed to do things on your own so that you're in a healthy place to be a mom, to do the things that you have to do with your life. So like, what helped you, whether it was going out with friends, talking to other family members, like how did that work for you? Like, what did you do to keep yourself sane?
Definitely talking to other family members. I wouldn't say that I went out much. Maybe here and there, but not really going out much. I would say that I had a few cries to myself. You know, just thinking about things and, you know, just hoping for the best, praying that everything goes well. But I don't think I didn't have much time to really, I don't really think about how I coped with it.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you were okay, I was okay.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's really how, you know, that was the thing that would keep me going. I know you're strong and I know you're going to get through it, but as long as you're okay and I talk to you and you're in good spirits, then that makes me feel good. So I'm, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing that I can say, like, even though, like I said, this is a selfish journey, I did try to be selfless at times, by, like, on the days where I didn't feel good, I tried not to make it be that noticeable that I'm not feeling good. Just because, again, like, I don't want my family to worry. I don't want my kids to worry. I don't want you to worry. Like, so a lot of times, like, when I'm around other people, I would try to do whatever I could to kind of keep the thought of, oh my God, oh my goodness, you're sick and you look horrible. So just having a smile and doing things to not feel or look the way I feel. Like, even when I lost all of my hair, I would keep my hair covered, keep my head covered until the hot flashes kicked in, and I couldn't do anything about that. But
I feel like that was all in your head though, because when your hair came out, you still look beautiful.
Oh,
like,
man,
you have like your whole everything. It looks nice. Like, it's like the low cut. You still beautiful, and you look so nice. And I was just like, it looks good. It actually looks like you had your hair cut like to be like, it looks good.
Thank you. I'm glad you say that, because I didn't feel like it looked good. And again, if you're joining me on TikTok, I have my sister live on Instagram. Hopefully you guys are able to hear her. She is just giving insight on what it is to be the caretaker or the supports for someone going through the cancer journey. And again, when I was diagnosed, one of the things that my sister did before treatment started was treat me to get microblading. My eyebrows are done, so it's still on there. This is not my eyebrows; it's microbladed, and that was something I think that helped with my confidence during this journey, because if I didn't have my eyebrows, I would have looked like a human milk dud, and that was not the look I was going for. And even going to the doctors, like when I didn't have my hair, I would wear wigs, I would wear hats, and the doctor's like, "Oh, your hair isn't not coming out. Your eyebrows are there," and I'm just like, "No, these are not real eyebrows." So if I take off my hat, it's not
the smallest things help.
Yes, it definitely did. So again, you have always been on point, and I definitely appreciate it.
And that was another thing that I was saying too. Even when you was losing your hair, like, you just slap one of those wigs on, nobody will ever know.
Yeah. Yep. And a lot of times, like, I would say 90% of the family don't even know that I'm going through this journey, even to this day. Just because I think it can be overwhelming. I'm an introvert. I like to keep to myself when I can. I enjoy being around my immediate family. But I just didn't want all of the phone calls and all of the added worries and things like that. And as some people found out, they were emotional. Like, I don't want anybody to be emotional. Like, I just want people to treat me as normal as possible, because that helps. When you get phone calls from family members and friends, and all they talk about is how you're doing and what's going on and how are your treatments and everything like that, like, it just reminds you that you have cancer. So that was my goal, not to have that. So a lot of family, I didn't want family members to know. So when we would have family events, like we had events throughout the year, and nobody knows that I was sick because I would put my wigs on and dress to impress.
Right. Yeah, I think that for me, that was probably one of the hardest things not to do, because I know you're an introvert and you don't really talk to anybody, but I speak to a lot of family and they ask about you all the time.
Yeah.
And so that was like difficult because I want to respect your wishes, not to have everybody, but it's also difficult because I know they love you and they you know, they know that you don't really speak to anybody and they always ask about you. So I think that was one of the hardest things for me, not saying anything. And also because of having another family member that was really sick. Yeah. And not knowing until the last minute. Like, that was rough. That was really rough. But, you know, I have to respect your wishes. And so that was that I, you know, couldn't do.
And that was the biggest thing for me. It's not even the fact of not wanting family members to know because I don't have relationships with them. Like, I don't want to worry anybody unnecessarily. Right. And everybody that found out, the ones that do know, it was a lot. It was emotional. So imagine everybody, like, we got a large family. Like, that's just too much to bear. Like, I'd rather just let them see me at events and be able to live life and not even have a worry in the world or anything like that. So I think that, again, when I'm through the journey, of course, I'll be more open and letting people know what's been going on. But, like, living in a house with the kids, I think it was difficult when I lost my hair, because the last thing you want to do is look sick. Like, we had conversations about what the journey is going to look like, medications, I'm going to be out of work, I'm not going to feel too good. But not looking sick was something that was big for me. So, like I said, when I started having the hot flashes and I had to reveal my head, I had to kind of give them a heads up, like, I don't have hair.
Yeah.
And they got used to it.
That was another thing too, because I know with the chemo, a lot of people lose their appetite and then lose weight. Mm-hmm. And so I was wondering if that was going to happen with you, but you stayed pretty healthy.
Yeah, I was on some steroids. Like, initially when I first started chemo, I did start losing weight, and I'm just like, this is not good. Because I was losing every appointment, I was losing weight. But then I started gaining it back. And then once I went on the treatments that was once every 3 weeks, like, I would be sick the first week, but by the second week when my taste buds was back, it's just like I was just eating everything that I couldn't taste. So I was able to maintain my weight. And then a doctor also was giving me insurance, so that kind of helped. So I'm happy that I was able to maintain my weight. I gained a little bit more weight than I needed to, but but yeah, that was not anything that I had to worry about. Let's see. How did your perspective on life change throughout this experience?
I think that I've always had this perspective that life is too short. Mm-hmm. You have to enjoy your time with your family. Spend as much time with your family as you can. Mm-hmm. Always let them know you love them, and and just live life. Like, you can't stress about the things that you can't change. You live in the here and deal with the stuff that comes up, and keep it moving. Like, stay lighthearted, because if you stress, that brings on health issues. And so just always being with family. And I think that I really started to feel like that, when something like this hits close to home, because you hear about it all the time. And, I think that I am one to, I always want to do stuff with my family and go places. But that, with the whole cancer thing, a lot of times you hear about it in other families and things like that. But when it hits close to home, then it's like, it really, lets you know that you and your family are not untouchable. Yeah. So,
Yeah. And that was a big thing, especially since we don't have breast cancer that runs in the family.
Right.
But like you said, you don't think about those things. Like, anything, would you say there's anything that changed as far as things that you were stressed about before that now is just like you find? Huh?
Mammogram.
Oh, well. Explain. What do you mean?
So I started getting mammograms when I turned 40. And not even 40. I think I got the first one at like 41. But my doctor kept telling me, you need to go get your mammogram. Yeah. You need to, just kept putting it off like, oh, just another doctor's appointment. Like, I don't feel like going. Yeah. We don't have cancer that runs in the family. Yeah. So I was real just lackadaisical for that. Yeah, I'll go when I go. But since this happened, it's something that I make sure I go and do.
Yeah.
Make a check and just, just staying on top of my appointments and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's definitely important. If you're watching me live on TikTok, I am live on both TikTok and Instagram. I have my sister as my guest today, talking about her experience being a caretaker during my journey of breast cancer. So I'm trying to get insight on her experience and how she navigated this journey on the other end of things. So thank you for joining me if you are on TikTok, and thank you for joining me if you are live on Instagram. Now, one of the things that I can say, like, when it comes to you being a nurse and being a mom, like, even for me, like, we're always on top of appointments for the kids, making sure they going to get whatever routine checkups they need, and make sure they get their vaccines and things like that. And I think that, again, now understanding the importance of doing your routine things, like when you turn 40, getting a mammogram, if that's what you have to wait until to get one, and kind of stay on top of things like that. Like, I went to my appointment with the primary care doctor, and I'm just asking about everything. Okay, at what age, like, what am I supposed to be getting done, and at what age? Because I just want to make sure I am staying on top of all of those things. And I think for women, like, we are always going to our annual OBGYN appointment. But then, like you said, the mammograms and things like that, it's just like, you think that you could put that off sometimes, and it's not the best. And and I think for me, like, going to my annual appointments for my OBGYN was more so to make sure that I had the proper birth control, because you have to see them every year in order to get the birth control. So if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't even been going there every year. So it's good that they do make those things that you have to go to your doctor if you want to have ongoing birth control after a year. So that kind
I think that it makes sense for all of that, because the earlier you catch something, they catch something, then the quicker treated, the more likely that you can be treated, and it's not as life threatening. Whereas if you wait in years and years and years, many other things could be going on.
Yeah.
So.
And it was actually my OB that felt a lump when I did my annual. So yeah, all of that, was good that I kind of did that. So let's see. How did you handle people around you who didn't understand what you were going through?
Well, I wouldn't say that I didn't have, like, nobody around me didn't know. I think that most of the people the immediate people that was around me knew.
Like, did you have any issues with work? Because I know, again, you were with me for appointments and for surgeries and things like that. Like, did you ever have any issues with work when you needed to take time off, or how did you navigate that?
Yeah, I didn't. My work, I was open with them when everything happened, and I told them I'm going to need time off, some days off. Most of the days, as soon as I know, I'll let them know, and they were really supportive. Okay. And they don't know you, but they would ask about you all the time. Even to this day, they'll text me and just be like, "Hey, how's your sister doing?" Nice. And they don't know you from a hole in the wall, but they were really supportive. So taking time off was never an issue. So I was definitely grateful for that. So.
That's another thing. Every time I would have appointments I need you to go on, I would call you like, are you available? Or if we would have a date for surgery, and then the date would change, and it's just like, oh man, now you gotta figure things out. Because every time we had things that you accompanied us on, like appointments and surgeries and things like that, I would tell you with enough time so that you can kind of adjust what you had going on with work, and then having dates change and stuff like that. It's just like, man, like, I'm just inconveniencing everyone.
It wasn't an inconvenience, but it was like it wasn't your fault that the appointments were changed and everything like that, and so it was just my whole thing about when I'm going to tell them or how I'm going to tell them, because it was going to happen. So I didn't worry about it. It's like, I'll tell them, like, the dates change and they're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
I appreciate you for that. What advice would you give to someone struggling to communicate with a loved one that has cancer? Like, so for your situation, I would say it was a little bit different, but for sometimes, like when people were diagnosed with cancer, and it's not even necessarily cancer, because I know that you have, we have a family member that you're there with during another medical issue. And how would you, like, what advice would you give to someone who is stepping in to be that support, but the person that you're helping may be angry with their health or angry with their diagnosis, and it's kind of being directed towards you at times? How, like, what advice would you give to someone who having difficulty with being that caretaker and also dealing with the anger and feeling like it's being directed towards them?
Yeah, I would say to not take it personal. And I think that that's something that I've learned being in the nursing field. A lot of times I get angry patients, and they're really not angry at me. They're angry at the situation, and they feel out of control. So I always, I never internalize it.
Yeah.
You know, I understand, well, I empathize because I don't really know how, you know, how it feels to be in that situation, but I definitely empathize. I listen to them. I let them know that I'm listening to them. I hear them, and just being an ear to listen. Like if they want to talk about anything, and just not trying to retaliate or get in my feelings and then, you know, go in a battle back and forth, because that's a waste of time. So I would just, you know, just be a listening ear, allow them to vent and say what they want, how they feel, and, you know, never internalize that. I'd still, you know, see how you doing. If I need to kind of maybe take a step back, let you have a few days or some time to kind of get your thoughts together. And, you know, because it always turns back to, they'll say, oh, it wasn't at you. And which I know that. I know that. And so just really not taking it personal. Not taking, just listening and empathize. And that's all. Like, you have to control your own emotions. So,
okay. And how did you balance your own life responsibilities while being there for me?
That's always a good question. I don't know. I just do it. Do it. You know, I'll try to. You know, I'm a planner too. So if I know that, okay, I have this coming up, I'll try to just. If I know I'm going to be out late, I might try to cook early so that I know my boys have dinner here while I'm going out, or I'll order them some food. I'll let them know. I just make sure everything at home is straight before I have to go. If it was something that, you know, was last minute and I had to run out and, you know, my boys are here, then I would, you know, maybe call a friend to come by or you know, my oldest daughter to come by and check on the boys and make sure they're okay. So, you know, I have support too. So it sometimes get crazy, but, you know, I take it one day at a time. And if it's the day that I'm just really stressed, once I come home, you know, I take a shower and just try to unwind and not think all of the things that I had to do today or how exhausted I am. I just try to relax, watch something that I like to watch, or, you know, some good old reels on Instagram to make me laugh before I go to sleep. You know? Just taking things one day at a time and just, you know, always got the brain spinning on what I could do to kind of make sure I get everything done.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how you got sleep. Just
I listen, since from the time that I started nursing school up until now, I don't know how I do half the things that I do. Like, I get it done.
Get it done. Man. But yeah, social media, I think, has been it's a good thing. Like, of course, on social media, you can find those people that are like some Debbie Downers on social media, but there's so much comedy like on social media that helps get through difficult times and get your mind off of things. And it's like so many people that going through difficult times in their lives, and they know how to find humor in it, and it kind of helps with realizing that, again, like, there's always something to laugh about, to smile about, and it makes you feel better. And I know
waking up every day is a blessing. So you have something to be happy about, and so you know, laughter is everything. Yeah. I know that's a lot how we deal with a lot of things, and just being able to laugh at the situation. Yes, you could have your time to be emotional, to cry, and everything, but always have the laughter and to be grateful for all the things that you do have. Yep. And
yeah. And I would say I would go to also, so we would send each other reels back and forth, but also reality TV. You gotta love reality TV. To take you out of your reality.
Exactly. Oh, right. And when you watch the reality TV, it makes you realize your life ain't so bad.
Exactly. Because some of those shows just be like, man. Yeah, let's see. Looking back, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that I did everything that I could possibly do. And, you know, again, it was not a real, like, oh, I had to think about doing this, I had to think, you know, I just do it. And so, you know, just knowing that you felt like I was available to you whenever, and I was, you know, I obviously did better than, you know, I thought, you know, because again, it's a situation that's really out of my control. All I could do was really check in on you and make sure I'm there when you need me to do something. And,
was there any times where you felt helpless?
Just, I mean, I just not knowing what the future holds, like how everything was gonna, you know, the treatments was gonna affect you, and not really having all the answers, and just having to wait on testing and all of that kind of stuff, and then with the surgeries, and that part was probably the most frustrating. Yeah, when you had to go in and then had to go back, and so that was really frustrating. I didn't feel like I had all the answers there, but you know, I accept that I'm not the sharpest tool in the box.
You are the sharpest tool in the box. You're also the tool in the box where if you have, or if I have an issue, like you're so you're very overprotective as my big sister, as it is. But when it came to, like, when we had appointments and surgeries, and just like, what are these people doing? Like, what is going on?
They had me ready to be a Karen. Like, I was like, I'm gonna what was I gonna do?
Make sure you write reviews.
And you kept trying to talk. I'm gonna do a review. This is ridiculous.
Oh man.
They had me turn into a Karen.
It's so silly.
But you know what? And I was really, that day I was really angry. Like, I was really frustrated. And you know who helped me out of that? Your mom. With some laughter. Your mom is laughter.
Yeah, that's one thing I can say. Like, everyone in our family, our immediate family especially, is like laughter and humor in every situation. And that's how we get through. That's how we get through life, man. Right. I don't know how many times I had to find a comedic something to watch. Exactly. Find the humor in situations, just because it's just like, it's how you get through life. And so, any last words of wisdom you would like to share, or again, when it comes to being a caretaker, is there anything that you think I could do differently, or a person that is diagnosed with cancer can do differently to kind of make things easier for the person who is being that support?
Well, I wasn't looking for you to make anything easy for me. But I would say, just to someone who does have a cancer diagnosis, to not not feel like a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Express how you feel anytime you feel it, because that's what we're here for, to be able for you to have that release and not hold it all in, and to let go of it, let somebody let somebody help you get through it, or to possibly make things better. So that's it. I mean, I feel like as a caregiver or someone who's a support system, that's what we're here for, for you to be able to unload, and for us to help you with that load, so you don't have to take on everything, because you have enough that you're taking. So I would say, just to be strong, communicate, be an ear to listen to, take your time to cry it out if you need to, and just and not to focus so much on the like you said, asking about the treatments, and not you want to ask about those, but have normal conversations too, and just to keep their mind off of the condition. So
I think the normal conversations is something that I definitely needed, because every day I wake up and look in the mirror, I know I got cancer. I don't want to talk about it every time I'm on the phone. I don't want to talk about it on the phone. And I know that, like, some days, thankfully, I do have a good support. So some days you would call Dale and get updates and things like that, where it's not always being directed at me. Like, just having someone else to kind of give you an update on what's going on with me was helpful for me. But I would say, like, when it comes to anybody that don't have the great support that I have, it's a big worry about being a burden. And it's not always because you don't want to overwhelm people. I think that a lot of times, like, because you're in this field, you have the experience of working with people when they're ill, when they have illnesses, and knowing how to navigate that. But some people who don't have that experience, I think that they don't know how to be that support. So instead of checking in and asking questions and being present, they kind of avoid the person altogether, and people may not want that to happen, so they don't feel open enough to talk about how they're feeling, because people get afraid, and it makes the relationship strained. Like, there's been so many people that I have come across that have gone through separations in their marriage, or not having a good relationship with their loved ones or friends, because the friends kind of didn't know how to help them navigate this journey, and it felt like they were being neglected, or I guess they feel like they're not loved or have that support. But when you get connected with a support group as a cancer patient, I think that that's helpful if you don't have a loved one that's able to kind of be that support for you. Because in these support groups, there's so many women that are just bawling and just dealing with every emotion, and it's never you'll be fine, everything's going to be okay. It's, you're allowed to feel how you feel. We're here to support you. If you're angry, be angry. If you're sad, be sad. If you just want to vent, we're going to listen. And I think that is helpful to people who may not have the physical, close, natural supports that I have had through this journey.
And I would say also, too, someone who is diagnosed with cancer, or they feel like they don't have the support system, or that people are avoiding them because of the situation, also try not to take that personally, because some people just don't know what to say or what to do, and it's no guide on how to deal with those things. And and to those people that are like that, I would say, like, you don't have to say anything. You just be there, just listen, and just be the shoulder for them to cry on if that's what they need. So.
And I definitely agree with that. And that's why, like, even if you just send a text to say thinking about you, like, that helps. But that's again why I wanted to have a conversation with you as being a support and a caretaker, because a lot of times we don't get that other perspective. We always assume that you guys are good, or if you're not present, then it's easy to take it personally. And it's just like realizing that when you have a diagnosis, when you get diagnosed with cancer, your loved ones may not know what you need or how to handle it. They may be dealing with their own emotional turmoil as a result of your diagnosis. And not surprisingly, but the reality is, like, there are so many families that avoid emotions, and avoidance is how they've navigated their entire life and family dynamics. So when there's something like that, it's just like, let me just not deal with it and maybe it'll go away. And exactly. So just being mindful that the caregivers and the people that are the supports, they also have to navigate your diagnosis and your how to manage that, and how to manage the new you, or because you're not gonna be the same, and it's not easy. Yeah. All righty. Yep. Any last words?
No, that was it. Just thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of my team. And like I said, I want to apologize if I have been selfish in this journey, not asking you specifically how you're handling my diagnosis. Like I said, we talk about everything else, but I never actually said, how are you? You know, like Elmo, when he did that text, I just want to know, how are you? Like, I need to be more mindful. And for those of you who are joining, just check in with those people that are in your support to make sure they're good too. Because we're all going through the emotional roller coaster, and it's not just one person. It's a diagnosis that affects everyone. So, yep. So, thank you for joining my live. Thank you guys on TikTok for joining me, and for Instagram for joining me. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. I love you too.
I love you too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.